Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mindset Artistry. I'm so excited because today we have Chrisina Liedtke. She has spent 20 years working in the consumer product goods industry, specifically beauty care and sales, marketing, business intelligence, among other roles, before transitioning into her own clothing brand and consulting company. Additionally, Chrisina lives, breathes, and cross-references her spiritual journey as a reference to entrepreneurship and design, which really goes with Mindset Artistry. We were just talking before we jumped on about how it all aligns. So many questions to ask, but Amanda works a lot with corporate creatives transitioning into more creative jobs. And just to kick it off, we would love to know how you transitioned from the corporate world into owning your own clothing brand and consulting company full time.
Yeah, so hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Like you said, I spent, probably 20 plus years in corporate America working for massive consumer product goods companies. While that was happening, I was side hustling, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with. The wonderful world of side hustling. My dream as a child was always going into fashion design. It was, I think I'm going to start off there and then kind of move into how I made this transition. I think fashion, people think about fashion as just like something we buy and something we like and these rewards and what have you, but fashion has so much more to say about us, and there's so much energy behind fashion. And I think when I was a child, I was actually really shy. So I used, and this was all the way probably leading up into my early 20s, I used fashion as my voice. It was the thing that I showed up the most. I was always well dressed. I was always, dressed up. I don't think I wore a pair of jeans until I was probably in my late 20s and 30s while everybody was wearing jeans. And I just wanted to always be present. I wanted everyone to see me and hear me, but I didn't have a voice because I was shy. So I used fashion as my voice, which led me into designing a lot. So I think I've been drawing since I was a kid. And then kind of started in probably my 20s, going into my 30s, I really started owning my skill set. And I'm all self-taught. I maybe have taken a couple classes here and there, learning how to sew, but it really has been a self-taught experience of, going into design and experimenting in different ways of design. Again, like with the question around corporate, that was my main gig for a long time. And I grew my corporate career. I was in sales, I was in marketing, I was in all these different roles. And then at night, I would design, I would work with clients. When I started this, it was probably in my 20s where I started doing custom couture. And then I went into doing luxury. And then I went into a couple other different categories of fashion design until I landed into something that I knew was going to be sustainable and was going to grow over time. And so that's kind of how I made that transition. And when I thought it was in a place that I could actually grow a company off of it, that's when that transition happened.
I love that. Speaking from a person who's been in the corporate world and has transitioned from that to a more creative outlet, I love that you really took your time and space to find out what that looks like for you and transitioning out into your own ventures and really embracing your true calling. And I think we all have multiple callings. And it all serves its purpose. I'm curious so we're both familiar with like sales and marketing and, that corporate aspect and everything. But what you've mentioned, and we talked previously about business intelligence. And that's a new term for me. That's a new term for us. Can you elaborate on what business intelligence is?
Yeah, business intelligence. So it's really interesting. Like in all of my corporate roles, there has been, again, like I think something that everybody knows about is, sales, strategy, marketing. Business intelligence is actually a sector of business that is growing rapidly today because what it is it's data. And when I started my corporate career, I actually was in category management. I would manage huge amounts of, if you look at huge amounts of data, everything from sales data, conversion data, any type of data, so that we could really build selling stories for our customers. Business intelligence is no different, other than it is the hierarchy of how data comes together and the form that it comes in. So if you don't it's like AI today, right? There's so much data that's out there. And what AI is doing is compiling it all in one part and then leveraging it in storytelling in another part. So it's, those are the things that business intelligence is. And for big corporations, data, the amount of data that we get in or corporations get in from a daily basis is so insane. And it really is about, how are you performing? What are your sales look like? But it's compiling it in a way that's easy to be able to tell a story. So you can go out and sell effectively. So that's kind of business intelligence in a nutshell. And it really operates everything from the back end all the way to the front end. So when I was in a role of business intelligence, I was working with North America on how do you compile, what are the tools we're using to compile this data so that what the employees are doing is not spending all day compiling the data. There's already stories that are being built automatically for you. Now you can go sell off of it.
Well, it made me think of a couple things, and I'm so excited for us to talk about storytelling because, Amanda and I are actors and we work with actors and other creatives, and they are so afraid of the business side because they're like, I'm a storyteller. I can't put it together. And even the point you're making about data, a lot of the creatives I work with sometimes are like, I think I've tried everything and I want to give up. I really want to do this with my life, but it doesn't seem like it's working. And I'm like, no, let's go back. Where is it not working? Do you want to do something in your heart? It means you can make it happen. What are you not doing? What isn't working? Stop doing that and let's pivot. So I love this conversation because I really want to get across to people, not only like Amanda and you, Christina, talking about how we can cross over from corporate, but for people out there that are creatives that are afraid of the business. Before we get into the selling stories and our personal stories and how it connects all of us in business and in life, I'd love to know what advice you have for creatives that are so afraid of sales. They're so afraid of business and they think it has nothing to do with them, but they won't be able to get very far in their career without it.
Well, it's so interesting because at the end of the day, as creatives, as business owners, it is so hard to remove ourselves from what we're doing. It's just so hard. We're in it. We're breathing in it. We get upset when the littlest thing happens, and then we get excited about the biggest thing happening. And yet, if you were to remove yourself from it and just logically look at what's working and what's not working, you're able to pivot. That is facts, And I use this example. It's the same thing in design. My customer for my business is above the age of 40. Right. So she is a modern woman. I do not call her an older woman. I think we need to get rid of the term older in general. I call her the modern woman. She is not a size 2. She is a size 6 or above. And even a size 6 that can look like a size 2, there are things that are happening in our bodies at this age that we cannot, you could wear 3 layers of Spanx and you still may not be to fully hide that little pooch that you cannot get rid of. And yet at the same point in time, that is a reward we get for living such a beautiful life. That's data. So my skirts cannot be designed the way a skirt fits a size 2 because I want to make sure she feels really good. So that little element of a little pooch or a little bit more width on the hips, we have to design around. That's data. That's a point of, I'm not going to be able to drive enough sales out of this one item because I know my customer and she's not going to she doesn't fit or she's not going to look great in this item. So therefore, let's design differently. And these are this is all data, but it's when we talk about the energy of this is I can't, if I know I'm going to lack sales because I know it's not going to suit my customer, I can either get frustrated by it and give up, or I can think we've got to design a little bit differently so that customer is completely 100% happy with our company and the messaging and storytelling around that. So that's why I think data should be the magic of your company, no matter which way you look at it. Creativity, yes, is great. All of these beautiful gifts that we are giving to our company because of who we are and what we represent and what we're bringing to the world. Absolutely. That is like the creme de la creme. But data sits in there as well, because this is the magic of being able to connect with people where they're at.
I love that. I think we talk about that quite often as actors, because we can get, like you say, get so caught up in the everyday aspect of being a creative, or whatever that looks like for an actor, a writer, a designer, whatever that may look like, a creative outlet. But we tend to forget the other aspect of it. And like Nell said, you get scared of it. You get scared of like, what if you fail? What if you don't know that information? Or how do you get the information? It's overwhelming. It takes away from my creativity, my art as an actor or whatever that may be. And you spoke to energy. And so can you elaborate the importance of focusing on energy and allowing space to attract what's meant for you versus chasing out of fear because you're either afraid to jump into the data and like recognize that maybe there are some gaps that I need to address, or you're just like, I don't even want to spend time and energy on that because I just rather focus on the creativity or the creation of whatever it is that you're putting out?
Yeah, I mean, energy, at the end of the day, I think we all know this, and I'm sure like you both dive into this all the time about what are we bringing to the world? That is energy. I mean, it is this part of, I'm an energetic being, and what people are buying from me is not design. They're not buying creativity. They're buying my energy. And so that is, so when one part of your business is failing or not doing as well, that's an energy suck. And if you want to live in that little energy suck, you can live there, or you can look at it constructively and be like, okay, again, data allows you to pivot, or data allows you to know like, hey, I need to take a step back right now and figure this out because I want to have the best, most beautiful, energetic company there is. And so I think those are, to me, energy is this, it's all consuming. And that the attraction of getting the right customer, that's energy. If you're doing specific, and I just say this, like, and I'm going through this as I continue to learn about my clientele, and I continue to learn how to run a company, and I continue to learn all of these things. I think the most interesting aspect is, when we talk going back to storytelling. Well, if I'm putting my energy into a message that is not about my clients, they will walk away from me. If I put my energy into just me, I'm at a different place than we're all in different places in our life. So it's not just about me. It's about the universe I'm trying to create, right? So and so when we talk about storytelling, or we talk about key messages that we're trying to deliver, or we're talking about data we're learning from, it all has to be very connected and beautiful and uplifting messaging and storytelling, because that's the energy people are looking for. We get bombarded every day. I mean, you guys know it, bombarded by messages. Like and it's worse now than it's ever been. Every 5 seconds is a new message. Every 5 seconds, you're getting taught to be somebody different. And so it really is about, how do you bring not just effective messaging, how do you bring effective energy that gets someone to believe in you, click on your website, take a double look at you, versus being like, skip, all of those things. And that's where you have to actually look at this combination of storytelling, messaging, and what energy it's bringing to people.
That just makes me think a bit about authenticity, because we talk a lot about like authenticity with actors and your expression, storytelling. And now that you're talking about, the data, I didn't think about how important data is to authenticity and how there is a correlation there, and then the energy of that as well. Can you speak a little bit about how you've found your voice and your authenticity within your brand for your clients? You talk about a lot about energy and talked about your personal journey, right? And how that may not align with your clients. So where is that authenticity, and how does that align with your brand and then your clients, and bringing them in and going, hey, this is a brand that's for you. this is where you belong. This is for you to shine?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think we all go through our own personal journeys in these chapters of our lives. I mean, and they're all very different. I was talking to a friend on Saturday night at dinner, and I'm finishing up 40 days of chanting, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever done an extensive amount of chanting, but the things that have like completely come up have been crazy. And it's this part of where your shadow lives. My shadow started showing up more and more, and where I feel like I'm most disconnected, not just from like my client side. That's one aspect, and that's something that I think I will always continue to work on, because you're constantly wanting to attract not only your clients coming back to you because you have a great product and you know them and you're giving them a great experience, but obviously new clients as well and new customers. But it's this journey of stepping into your highest self. When you are operating at your highest self, which a lot of people do not know who that person is. They don't see it, they don't experience it. But when you are stepping into your highest self, you are delivering that abundance. You are attracting the right person and the right clients and the right love, all the right friendships, all of that. You're attracting all of this. But to get to that highest self requires actually a lot of purging and a lot of stuff that like we all have to, one of the things I learned in this like 40 days of chanting is I have my inner child, and my inner child, I was connecting with old toxic traumatic versions, right? Like the stuff that like I was just hanging on to, and I thought that was connected to my inner child. That is not connected to my inner child. My inner child is loving and playful, and that's what makes me a great creative. And she should come wherever I go and like bring her along and love her. And yet I wanted to get rid of her because she was connected to like all of the trauma around her. And as soon as I realized that, I could let those versions go much more easily and bring what I need to bring out. When you think about creativity, I mean, most people don't know their inner child, and then they don't know the highest version of themselves. And so if all of that is gone, you're actually not what are you stepping into? What's your next version? And then what's the attraction you're trying to bring? Does that make sense?
So it definitely does. You're dropping some gems here. I think Janelle and I have talked about a lot about like the shadow, again, really diving deep into the healing. And it's a very dark and vulnerable place to live in. A lot of awareness and admittance and taking responsibility and not blaming others. Like that is it's like peeling the layers of an onion or a tree. We've got the rings, and every year we develop the ring of the life and the journey that we live in. I appreciate you sharing that, because I think I talk a lot about purging. And I think we tend to not do it because we tend to hold things in so often. It's like, just suck it up and move on. So I appreciate you sharing another version of how to purge. And I've talked about, journaling and all these things, but I love the chanting, because it's like, that's our inner voice. That's our predominant voice that's really urging to come out. And so anyone out there, chant at night, chant in the shower, chant at home, like do it in the woods, and chant like Betty White in the movie when she's like, like chant it out, baby. But yeah, go ahead, Janelle.
Oh, no, I love it. And it's so true. And you do get to a point, and I know how hard it is. I feel like I really started to dig into my shadows right around 2020. And it was kind of funny because the people that were kind of helping me that maybe can see certain things, within, they're like, they could kind of see what was going on. You go to a breathwork teacher, you go to someone, you're doing a Thai massage, and they pick up certain things about your energy. And like, I'm glad, because they would just kind of be like, oh, I'm glad they didn't tell me how much I had to work through, because I don't think I would have done the work, because sometimes it can take a long time, and it doesn't mean it's impossible. But I even had a breakthrough like a month ago where instead of being reactive to something that was really scary for me, I was able to take myself aside with my inner child and be like, I got you. I love you. You're enough. Everything you want is going to happen because I'm here for you, and you're not going to be abandoned and all this stuff. But it took me a while to get there, because you have to have that healing process. So for anybody listening, like, look, it's a journey. It's okay. But then I do have the most amazing people coming back into my life, and the clients find you and the work does come, even though it's scary. And with the energy, you're like, okay, like the thoughts can come. Don't feel bad if the thoughts come. Like, I'm never going to make any money. It's just, and Amanda and I were talking about this. You just have to be like making space for the good to come in. Sometimes it's not going to happen the way you want, and you want to control it. So I would love any advice you have, Christina, about that. Like, you try and keep your energy right, and you're like, I'm here, but then things aren't moving as fast as you want. What do you do for yourself during those moments, for your business and your personal life and all of that?
I think it's so interesting. So one of the affirmations I say to myself, like I have like a whole list of affirmations that I read on a daily basis. First thing I do in the morning is meditate, and then I read these affirmations. And one of my affirmations, which I just learned, so back to what you just said, and I'm going to bring it up, is we cannot control our narratives. Like I deserve, I like my worth, all of these things. It's not, for me, the affirmation is, I'm going to allow health, wealth, love, and abundance to come into my life without controlling the narrative. And I think we control, and so there's like two things. I think we want to control how much money we make, not knowing that actually the money that we are worth is so much more, but we don't believe that it's out there. So we just, try to, like, I'm going to make this set of dollars, right? And yet we're not connecting with actually what's bigger than that. And so we're trying to control the narrative, or I want to have this type of love, but not the expansive love. Don't let me get the expansive. I just want this little piece of love that comes in. And so all of these things, we control every narrative of our lives. And yet what the universe is always reminding us is this is a huge world. And there's so much, not only that you can give, but there's so much for you to receive. And so I think it's really interesting about this controlling of the narrative. But to get to this, Amanda, to your point, purging. So this ability to purge, and like for me to get to who the core of my inner child is, which is a little girl who is loving and loved and beautiful and all of this stuff that she never believed herself to be until I actually reconnected with her. I had to get rid of all of the layers that was sitting on top of her. And so you have to purge that. But to purge that, you have to get rid of limiting beliefs. You have to get rid of messages that you're telling yoweself every day. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I look in the mirror and I'm like, I wish I could do this to my skin, or I wish this, or whatever. We're constantly feeding ourselves negative responses instead of actually like looking in the mirror and being like, I look amazing today. But and so all of these things have to change for us to actually amplify our inner child, our voice, our best self, and then we also, while that's happening, we stop controlling narratives as much because we feel safe.
I am loving everything you're saying, because I talk about limiting beliefs all the time. I talk about, every aspect that you're talking about, the higher self and what that looks like, because a lot of us are distracted. We are consumed by the outer world, and we think that that's what we want. We think our higher self is someone else. We think, and we look for external validation. We look to, like you said, social media. There's so much going on. There's so much that's being sent our way that we literally block ourselves from looking within because we're afraid to. And we also don't know how to, because we're being told what to think, how to move, and where to go. And I love that you are talking about this, because we talk about this so often. And I think I feel like sometimes it goes through one ear and out the other for some people, but it's also a scary journey. It's a scary journey to go through this process and connect with the inner child. I remember the first time I connected with my inner child, and I felt so sorry for her. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. All you've been wanting to do is feel loved and have fun and be free. And I've limited you because of other external experiences that I've put upon you, or that you've experienced, that I've defined that for you. I made my child be defined by my experiences rather than what her true birthright is. And that's exactly that picture, right? You talked about the bigger picture, the universe, that unknown that is so accessible to us. Be aware of it and know that it's accessible, but through that, it's the layers. So I'm curious, have you always thought about your spiritual journey, and or is this something that came up for you as you were approaching your career and what you wanted for your life's purpose?
It's interesting. I've been a yogi for like 20 plus years, and I'm not a yoga teacher. I've just been going to yoga. I want to clarify that because I think people think yogi is like you actually teach. I don't teach, although I always think about it, but maybe that's the next chapter. But I've been a meditator for 7 or 8 years at this point. And when we talk about this journey, it is a journey. People have to understand you are getting rid of or purging, and that's not just meditation. I mean, a lot of people ask, like, what is meditation? I'm like, actually, it's just sitting down and breathing. That's what it is. It's nothing more than sitting down and breathing. But most people do not like meditation because it makes you become quiet inside, and they can't tolerate the silence. And because, again, we go into story mode. As much as we are storytellers and putting our stories out there in the world, it is all the stories. And this is what I loved about chanting. It is all the stories that I always say it's active listening. Chanting is active listening because you're not just like listening to your own voice and what voice you're putting out there. It is you are listening to your internal voice. You get to hear it. And chanting's my methodology, but it could be different for somebody else. But going into this question of spirituality, about 8 years ago, I started meditating. And at first, it was just like Sarah Blondin. I don't know if you know who Sarah Blondin is, but she is one of the most beautiful meditators you could ever listen to. And I tapped into the app Insight Timer. And then it kind of led me to all these different chapters. And before meditation, I was a marathon runner. So running was a way of meditating. It was you were still like kind of silencing everything because you're just trying to be like, please get me to mile 26. But, it's funny how year after year after year, the meditation evolves. You become much more spiritually connected. Your intuition is so sharp that you actually are like, that is not for me. Before meditation and before spirituality, I would chase literally almost anything, or just, even if I knew it was wrong for me, I would still do it. And now intuition has been sharpened. The entrepreneurial part of being an entrepreneur and also spiritual is such an effective combination because you are no longer working for a paycheck. I mean, it's just a whole different way of getting a paycheck, but you are tapping into this part. And I say this like, I didn't always say this, but I'm saying this today. I am a gift, and I'm putting myself as a gift out in the world. What is it that I'm giving? And when you are connected to the divine, when you are connected into spirituality, you know how to own that message. And that, to me, is where that crossover happens.
I think you were joined by meditation this morning. So that was all I do. More so like I've gotten back into breath work, and that is like connecting. Ooh, my gosh, the breath work of that is insane. But I love everything you're saying. It's just so wonderful. I think there's sometimes not a scarcity, but a fear of talking about spirituality and entrepreneurship, because it's like you can't have both. It doesn't make sense because business is very logical. It's very by the numbers. It's very, you talked about the data, but there is a synchronicity. There is something beyond us, the divine, like you talked about, and that energy, and what you put out is what you get. And if you're in that mindset of the lack of, or the desperation of things, you will always be in that lack of, that last desperation, that living in the past rather than appreciating and being present and embracing what's to come and living in the moment. I definitely want to circle back and talk about, the limiting beliefs for anyone out there who's maybe struggling with limiting beliefs or blind spots or just overwhelmed by negative thoughts. What advice do you have for them that who are in the creative field or just in general?
I mean, I think there's this, so it's interesting because when going back to your question about spirituality, there is this part on, when I was working for a corporate, I think it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or not. I mean, that's one part, and I'll get into that. I think though, like even as working for a company, this connectivity behind what I have to offer and this point of alignment if you work for a company and you're like, I'm not happy here, then go find the company that you are happy with, or go find the company that you are aligned, that your values and their values are the same, or what you want, where you want to grow and where they want you to grow and where they want the company to grow is the same. Because the moment that a company tells you, this is where we want you to grow, and you are, I don't want to grow this way, I want to grow this way instead, you are not going to be able to get anywhere. It's not energetically aligned. It's not aligned in your value set. It's not aligned in making the most of the life that you have here. And you're just going to waste your time, and you're actually going to waste the company's time. You are much better off saying, hey, listen, I want to do this. This is what I want to learn. This is where I want to be. Is there something that you can provide for me? And I will give you my, if those things aren't aligned, you are not giving 150%, and they're not going to give you 150%. And so I think that's where, again, spirituality really plays into all of work, because it is, work becomes a huge attraction and a huge abundance point when it's aligned. So that's kind of like one piece of advice, but I feel like when for entrepreneurs and moving into like the creative world, I mean, there is the logic behind all of this. One of the things that I'm facing as an entrepreneur is, and I think we all face this, is what we're doing, does it have longevity? Is it a project that is short term and I just want to go and have this one experience and then move off of it and like say that I did it and check that box and whatever? Or does it have longevity? Can you carry this forward for the next, so many of us entrepreneurs, especially in the products goods industry, but it could be the services industry, is I want to get acquired. Your company has to sustain the growth, the 2 to 3x every year in growth from a sales perspective, from a profit perspective, and consistently build to even be acquired. And that acquisition has to make sense for a company that may magically be there or is already there. And so that has to be, at the end of the day, that has to be your mindset. I think, and it's not acquisition as much as can you make it sustainable over time? That's logic. I think the other thing is that when you look at what longevity is, and I look at it from a product standpoint, is I always have to bring in new, and there has to be a lot of capital injections for new. It's just there. There's the, self-financing of it. And then there's all of these other things. I think creatives have to look at it, again, from the longevity standpoint. I think they have to look at it from a creativity, again, is, are you all in? Because you can't half-ass creativity. You start half-assing creativity, you're not going to get anywhere. And so, these are self-aware questions. I think if you're selling products, I think if you're selling anything, what are your points of distribution? Define your points of distribution before you even start thinking about running your own company, because it is like, for me, it's where's sales coming from? Are we doing wholesale? Are we doing D2C, direct to consumer? Are we doing business to business? Are we like, what does that network look like? What does that pricing scenario look like? Am I bringing in profit? Like all of this stuff. And then what does the timelines look like? So, that to me is distribution for, I'm sure, actresses, such beautiful actresses like yourself, is it Broadway? Is it radio? Is it like, what are those points of distribution? Is it, getting 100 clients a month to do spiritual services with? Can you sustain 100 clients a month? Or are you going to wear yourself out completely by running after everything? So that's kind of like, I think there's logical and also very self-aware questions that you have to ask yourself kind of before you make the transition. And I say that in hard business. This is not easy. And I know you guys know, I think it's easier to go work for someone else and to bring as much as you've got to that company and to that business, bring as much value. I don't say it's easier because I think all things are hard sometimes, but I think as an entrepreneur, you're carrying everything on your shoulders, or as an actress, you're carrying everything on your shoulders. as a service provider, you're carrying everything on your shoulders. And then you're like, okay, do I have any balance in my life? Do I even have a life at this point?
So that's so good.
A life and, a business. Yeah. We're always talking about that balance. No, but I appreciate you sharing all of that because it's like whatever you're working in fashion. And yeah, as actors, it's just really taking the time to look at how can I make this a nice long career. It's even me, when I started coaching, people are like, well, I haven't seen you in anything yet. You're not famous. And I'm like, yeah, I figured out where I could put myself to make money in as many ways as possible in an industry that I want to work in so I could be as marketable. I don't care if I'm famous. I want to work doing jobs that I love, and it happens to be in, the creative careers, although we can be creative anywhere. So I love that you share that. Well, we have about 5 minutes left because I just been told I'm going to get kicked out a little early here. So I'd love, as we wrap up here, if there's any last things that you have to share with our listeners. It's been such a beautiful conversation. So anything else you want them to know before we jump off?
No, I mean, I think my only advice is like for so many people, and believe me, I still have a lot of friends who work for corporate America that I talk to and whatever. I think there is this point of sit down and be silent every day. If you can do one thing for yourself, sit down and be silent every day. I meditate twice a day, but I also feel like as an entrepreneur, I've got to take the morning and the night to really, because I have so much going on throughout the day that I have to have silence so I can enter my day, and I have to have silence so I can exit my day. And whatever meditation, whether it's just breathing, whether it's listening to somebody else, but it is a huge starting point to something that is not only a fantastic journey, but it will delayer you. And then you get to these jump off points, these big leaps of faith. And when we go back to your initial question of how I made that transition, it was a leap of faith, but it was a leap of faith that I felt safe, and I felt safe making. Yes, it was a risk. Yes, I could feel the risk, but I felt safer making it after years of meditation than just being like, forget, whatever, I'm just going to jump. No, let's feel good inside your body, inside your self-esteem. And I think meditation and starting there starts getting you to different places where you're at.
That's incredible. We talk about that a lot. And, because we have so much going on, our brain is constantly working, and our brain will support anything we tell it to or we think. And sometimes we have to shut it down. And naturally, I discovered this, that our brain resets every night. It flushes itself with a chemical to refresh itself while you're sleeping. So if the brain does that, you should also be aligning with your brain to do that with your body, because you have to. So I love that you said the way you enter your day and the way you exit it, so brilliant. I love that. And I hope everyone takes that into consideration and just think about what works for you. Maybe meditation doesn't work, sitting still doesn't work, but working out does, or journaling or reading a book. But that silence of that moment of you and you only, and then with that, setting the intention of that day, entering your day, exiting your day. And so I love that. And one last thing is, how can people find you and keep connected?
So you can always connect with me through my website, which is a story. It's spelled ASTOURI.com. There is a little section if you ever want to send a note or ask questions or whatever. There's a little section that you can fill out a little form, and it comes to me and my team. You can find me on Instagram. So my Instagram for the brand is a story, again, ASTOURI_style, or you can find me under my name, which is Christina_Liedtke on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but mainly those are the sites that I connect with the most. And we've got a lot coming up. So I would love for people to check us out and stay connected.
Of course. Always. Just the last bit of it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I hope that every person who gets an opportunity to watch this episode understands that creativity and spirituality, entrepreneurship is all connected. That self-worth, that awareness, everything is connected, and just recognize that you are more than what you think you are. You just got to give yourself time throughout the journey. And that's what Christina is talking about. So myself and Janelle have been talking about, and embrace it. Be authentically you, because no one in the world, like Christina said, has a gift that you have to share. So please share your gift. You're doing the world a disservice by not sharing your gift.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yes. Thank you so much. And yes, keep in contact with every one of us. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
We'll see you next time.